Hi there, and welcome back to the Astro weather for 2024. It's been a bit over a month since I've been on here with the full weekly Astro weather, so I thought a great time to start would be February 1st. All of that energy over Christmas and the New Year. I hope we all survived it. It was very heavy on the healing, so I hope we've all had a very healing time. And now we are forward motion with Jupiter moving direct, Uranus moving direct, Pluto has moved into Aquarius, and we are in Aquarius season. So we could not be more prompted to move forward towards our goals, which are going to be a positive impact for the collective eventually, being that we are in that transition period between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. Let's get into it. So, February 1st, 2024. Now, we are starting off this astro weather with some stressful aspects in that dream space. We do have a moon opposition to Chiron, the wounded healer, at 3:35 a.m. So this is a bit of a stressful aspect. This is a tug of war. It will be between our emotional needs, and it's from an I am energy because Chiron is in Aries. So with that Libra moon, we are going to be trying to sort of balance out relationships with other and self. Then as we're waking up on the 1st, we kind of get an aspect around 7:17 a.m. and then 9:48 a.m. Now this is going to be our emotional state will really have us looking at our purpose and the steps forward here in relation to what we are trying to achieve and how we do that within balance. Now, we need to be really careful under this energy of putting your own needs second because we are dealing with a Libra moon here. So making sure that we're not being too stubborn here around both giving and taking, all right? So there is some Uranus energy, that is that 9:48 a.m., a quincunx aspect with the moon in Libra that's going to come in and really try and help us work through what compromises are needed to move through that opposition energy earlier in that morning. Then we get to lunchtime and we're moving on into the afternoon. Now there is a square to Mars at 1 p.m. and that is some game on energy, all right? Mars is in Capricorn, very motivated to take action responsibly, but this is kind of the energy as well of overspending and being overindulgent because of this Libra fighting with that responsible Capricorn daddy. So just be really careful because there is also causing an imbalance between the masculine action energy and the feminine emotional intuitive energy. So this could cause some arguments in relationships at work. Probably not the day to go in and talk to your boss about a pay rise, all right? Then in that later afternoon space, we get that big daddy karmic Saturn coming in, and he is going to look to trigger some stress and anxiety. And now the point of this is to try and push us through any obstacles that square to Mars brought up. All right, so this is a feeling where you might be a little bit stuck in your energy. You might be feeling a little bit stubborn, and we need to concentrate on not acting compulsively and not being obsessive about the way that we feel, okay? We need to be really concentrating on what it is that this anxiety trigger is trying to move us through. Then later in the evening, we see the moon going void at 8:03 p.m. with a square to Mercury. So this is going to be a very interesting void moon stage because it's a little bit of a battle energy, all right? Now, I would not advise traveling anywhere in the evening because with that moon square to Mercury under a void moon, there is likely to be a lot of delays in travel, a lot of pieces of information that you do not see. So don't be making any big decisions on over the evening because that void moon is going to last until 7:36 the next day, okay? So really asking for clarity about any conversations that come up with Mercury and Capricorn here in that square aspect, and probably leave early. If you have anywhere important to be, make sure you are leaving early because of these delays that could be caused with this Mercury aspect, all right? And now it's also going to be really hard to focus, and just being aware that Mercury, who is that planet of communication, that we are being very careful and checking, twice, 3 times before we're sending important emails, before we're sending text messages, making sure we're sending them to the right people and that the wording is able to be understood because there can be that lack of clarity under this aspect, okay? And Capricorn energy there in Mercury can come across quite cold with its communication. So if that is not the energy that you are trying to communicate, make sure you double check, okay? Now later on in the night around 11:12 p.m., there is going to be some annoying compromise energy. And this is probably going to be related to anything that came up earlier in the evening under that square. And being that we are still in a void moon, it's going to be very difficult to see what the compromise needs to be, because the void moon, of course, does not show us everything we need to see. Now, the moon in Libra here is going to be looking to balance out that Neptune in Pisces energy, which is likely to be trying to run away with this void moon. You know, Pisces energy really wants that escape, and Neptune being the planet, those two working together might be really pushing you to not want to deal with this situation. So we want to be remembering that Neptune in Pisces does bring up trauma programming and does want us to escape from it. All right, so we might be holding on to these things that we don't need to be holding on to, and that quincunx aspect is going to make that Libra moon try and balance out what it is we do currently need to be working with and this old programming that we could potentially throw out. All right, an interesting day to start off the astro weather, but that's what it is. Then let's look at Friday, the 2nd of February. Now, this is a very interesting day. Friday, Saturday this week, very interesting. So starting off in that dream space at 4:38 a.m., a semi-square to Lilith. Now, this is going to be Lilith bringing up some issues with give and take and really looking into how we are standing up for our needs in a relationship dynamic. And this will definitely be calling back to anything that came up during that square yesterday. And we are going to be feeling quite triggered on a personal front here, because it's likely to make us think of places with Lilith around that we felt guilt about, that we have felt shame about, and places that we have been misunderstood a lot of the time by people that are supposed to know us, all right? So it's a very triggering aspect. We could be waking up feeling very ready to fight, all right? Thankfully though, at 6:56 a.m. there is a quintile to Venus, and then 8:22 we get another square to Pluto. So it's a bit of a battle energy, but that moon in Libra with that quincunx is going to try and create some order. And, you know, it wants to do the work in the relationship dynamic, but we might find that Scorpio moon then coming and squaring Pluto is going to put us very deep in our feelings, very deep in our emotional space with that Scorpio moon energy. And with a square to Pluto, so remembering that squares are battle energies, okay? So these two energies fighting against each other. Scorpio, who likes to be very secretive, and Aquarius, who likes to rebel and think of the collective, coming into a bit of a restless fight action. Now, this could make us not only restless, but also very untrusting of others, because both of these aspects are at 0 degrees. So it's as if we are at the beginning of trying to understand the underlying issue here. Now, a bit later in the morning at 11:10 a.m., we are going to get some support to let go of these old ideas and move forward from a quintile aspect between the moon and Neptune. And then at 5:15 p.m., we're going to get another bit of a battle energy with the semi-square to Saturn here. So Mars in Capricorn and Saturn in Pisces, and they are both moving forward. So this is some big discipline daddy energy here with Capricorn and Saturn, and that Mars energy as well. So really having a little battle about that give and take situation in order to know what it is we can shed and throw out of this old idea system that we are potentially working with. Then we get into the evening. Now the evening it's a bit of an easy flowing evening, okay, Friday night. So, you know, we have this bit of an energy going on during the day to try and help us move through some old patterns. And then once we hit 8:30, we get a nice trine to Saturn here. So this is the moon and that big daddy karma Saturn working together finally. Then we see a sextile to Neptune, and later on an opposition to Jupiter. So that moon trining Saturn is going to bring in that easy flow energy into our structure. Then with that sextile coming in up against Mercury and Neptune there, it's going to help us communicate, and from a logical place as well, all right? So when we get that Mercury and Capricorn in a positive aspect, it's really logical communication. It's an ability to be able to see through the emotional space to make sure that we are being understood. Now, after that, we will get a little battle of dominance, and that's when it will come to your expansion and ideas of security, all right, with Jupiter and Taurus jumping in there. It is moving forward, so it is still a positive aspect here, but sometimes Scorpio wanting to be quite mysterious and deep and have its way, coming up against a Taurus energy that we all know can get quite possessive and stubborn. These two possessive energies can want to rule this space, all right? So On the positive, this opposition, it could bring in some really nice spicy energy to your relationship because it does open up our imagination space because we are in that deep Scorpio land. But do watch out that you're not being too stubborn if you are still dealing with the fallout of the square yesterday. And then Saturday, February 3rd. Now, strap in for this one, okay? Saturday is going to be a very interesting day. In that dream space energy, there's going to be a desire to create some order in our deep emotional space, all right? So it's where we take action and discipline with responsibility, okay? And there's going to be some very annoying and maybe even anxiety triggering energy around because Neptune's going to come in and really highlight our tendencies toward escape. So being really careful Friday night and Saturday about your escapist tendencies. And these could involve anything from, alcohol, drugs, gambling, calling your ex, starting fights with someone that you don't need to start your fights with, like anything that you might do in an obsessive kind of compulsive way in order to escape the reality of what your actual situation is. Very triggering on the Friday and Saturday there. Then at 9:09 a.m., we see a nice aspect between the moon and Venus, but then we hit 10:15 and we get a half moon in Scorpio, and that just down the line, we get some very interesting energy. So this Saturday morning is going to be very busy. We're starting off there when we're waking up in a really nice love space energy. So after that heaviness of the last couple of days, it'll be nice to be feeling quite loved up, all right? If you've got a partner or if you're by yourself with your pet, really nice energy to kind of chill out and just enjoy the space. Because we got a square coming in, all right? So we get that half moon and then it's going to square the sun, all right? So this is a really eccentric, kind of headstrong energy here. And there's a real high tendency of everyone to be quite moody and primed to sort of fight everyone that disagrees with you. So be careful of that, because after we get that kind of energy of wanting to fight, Lilith is going to get involved, all right? And she is going to trigger up some old shames and guilts, and these are going to be in places where we have been misunderstood in the past. Now, the purpose of the moon in Scorpio, meeting up with Lilith here, is to problem solve. So even though it might feel a bit triggering, the purpose is to problem solve, because Scorpio, loves that deep emotional conversation, likes to have the awkward taboo situation, is comfortable there, and Lilith being the dark side of our emotional nature. So this energy wants to cooperate, and it wants to help us with this fight energy. It wants to find the cause of it. Where did it come from? What was triggered? It wants to go deep inside of there with Scorpio and Lilith. But it is going to force us into a compromise situation where we need to understand the effect of, any times that we may oppress our own needs or oppress others' needs in order to get our way, and how that affects not only us, but the collective around us with that Aquarius energy, okay? Then we're only at lunchtime. So then we get this afternoon, which is filled with some very restless energy, very restless around compromising, because we are still trying to move through communicating our emotions and thoughts that we've had during all of that big, heavy energy in the morning. So it's going to make us probably looking into very emotional past situations and wounds and what they cause in us that create these emotional reactions when we feel like we need to stand up for ourselves, what it is about those things and where have they come from that put us into a fight energy of really taking offense of somebody else's energy, okay? And then we get into the evening. Now, the evening is very heavy on the energy as well here on Saturday night, okay? I would advise being around people that know you very well, that you're very good at communicating with, okay? With that Scorpio moon, we do have a tendency to want to be by ourselves, and I would advise that against meeting new people. This is not really the energy to be out with new people. So the evening brings that a lot more compromise energy, okay? Pluto is going to come in and try and help us organize that deep underworld space, and trying to do that in a way that we can see what we need to understand on a deeper level, or what we need to move through and throw out of our lives, okay? Really heavy on that. Looking at past cycles and what we don't need, the things that have caused those reactions in the past, okay? And so we will get very headstrong about this because Uranus is coming into play around 9 p.m. And, it's going to be in that thought process of it's my way or we're not doing it. And we might be in a space of really trying to ignore what it is that we do need to throw away, because in spaces where we are confronted with old cycles and old patterns that we need to throw away, often our first reaction is to rebel against them. And Pluto energy here, it can be bringing up a lot of secrets, a lot of things in the dark about how we grow through our toughest lessons, as well as places that we feel trapped. And of course, what do we do when we feel trapped? We fight back. So really interesting energy on Saturday night. Then the last aspect of Saturday night is Venus and Lilith, and they're going to meet up in actually a happy aspect. So we are going to get some real help getting grounded with all of this energy because we are dealing with Capricorn and Virgo energy by this time. And this is going to help bring some balance and a bit more discipline by sorting out and discerning what is important, what we need to keep, what part of these cycles are helpful, and really understanding what we learnt from these cycles. Taking the good and throwing away the bad is the energy that we're looking at there. And offering that support to see which of our thoughts and actions are reactionary and based on these past dynamics, where we have felt guilt and shame, and being able to throw them away if they no longer serve us in this current reality that we live in. Okay, big heavy Saturday. I wouldn't have too many things planned. I'd kind of just roll with the energy. Scorpio moon does give us that kind of deep emotional secretive space where we do tend to want to be by ourselves or with pets. Okay, then let's jump on to Sunday, February 4th. Okay, busy dream space again, from 1 a.m. until 6 a.m., really busy in the dream space because we'll be trying to create some order and not escape these hard choices that were triggered by all of those Chiron wounds that would have been activated last night and yesterday in that huge energy space that we were dealing with. Now, we are going to be supported to let go of these patterns even more heavily in this morning energy. So in the dream space, we could be doing a lot of work. So you could wake up very tired on Sunday. So try and sleep in if you can, all right? Now, there's a sextile with Mars. That's going to really help us see that we are actually ready to take action here. It's going to push away any of that escapist tendencies that Pisces energy brings up earlier on, and it's going to really allow us to let go and move forward. Then by 9:30 a.m. we get an aspect with the moon and Lilith again, and then we see a very quickly after a trine with Neptune as well. So this easy morning, but it could be a little bit restless because some deep feelings can come up again with a Scorpio moon and with Neptune around and Lilith. So the purpose of any deep feelings or restless kind of anxiety that comes up on Sunday morning really is to find untapped abilities in healing those wounds and releasing that shame. Because remembering that Chiron, the wounded healer, when it is activated, its purpose is for us to heal it so that we can then teach others that is possible to heal. And we get a lot of our superpowers and a lot of our spiritual abilities from being able to heal these Chiron wounds. Okay, so remembering that when we are going through these time traveling periods back into our past. Okay, now at 2:24 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, the moon goes void with a sextile to Mercury. It is void until 5:27 p.m. So this is quite a nice aspect to go void with that sextile to Mercury. It's going to probably bring in some really good communication in relation to those deep feelings that have been coming up. And even though that's a nice energy, we then at 4:47 p.m. get a little bit of chaos coming in, because after that good communication, we're really going to see that Venus in Capricorn coming in. Now, Venus in Capricorn energy is very much about you have to work to achieve the relationships that you want, and a moon in Scorpio, very deep, emotional and possessive energy. So we could see after that good communication and that really nice travel energy that we get with Mercury around as well, that we're going to need to look at some balance, because this irritation that's going to show up on the relationship dynamic front, it could be somebody withholding something, somebody having secrets, or at least it could appear that way to you, okay? That they're holding on to secrets, or that they're not doing their share of the work with Venus in Capricorn, okay? So just be aware that we are under a void moon. So if you are having these ideas that you don't know everything, perhaps wait until after 5:30 and see if they resolve themselves, because void moons have a tendency to not give us all of the information, okay? Now, at 5:27, when the moon moves out of its void state, it goes into Sagittarius, which is very optimistic energy, very adventurous, very up for a good time. And the first aspect we see is also a positive aspect because we have a sextile to Pluto. So this evening is a wild ride of energy because the moon now being in Sag, meeting up with Pluto first thing, it's that creative, adventurous energy. Might put us into a bit of a sentimental energy as well because Chiron and Lilith are also being triggered, and that could bring some annoying anxiety energy to that good vibe that you might feel earlier on in the evening. And it could be brought on by a conversation because Mercury being involved again, okay? It could be a conversation with someone who's showing up a little bit cold, a little bit uncaring, a little bit too logical for the state of emotion that you could potentially still be in after the last few days, all right? And so again, really remembering that letting go of old cycles can cause anxiety, because a lot of the time, if we have been in a victim mentality, we have been in chaos, the lack of those two things actually causes anxiety because we find this kind of comfort in knowing, like, ego likes it to always be the same. It doesn't like any upheaval. So even the upheaval that releases chaos can cause anxiety because you are waiting for something to happen that's not going to happen. So just trying to remember that if you do find yourself in a place of anxiety on Sunday night, because these triggers are really about being supportive and helping us see that we can let go and move forward and be comfortable without the chaos. Now, we do end the evening on Sunday evening with a really supportive aspect that's going to help us feel a bit more organized in our emotional state and really help us start to see and understand, or understand, as a lot of spiritual people say that really makes sense here, that there is a lot of strength in healing our wounds, all right? So if you can get a cuddle from someone who understands you on Sunday night, I would highly advise it, because the heavy healing energy that has been around this week could have you in your feels quite a lot. So make sure you do take some time out for yourself and take your time to work through all of these things, all right? Now, if you would like a birth chart reading, which you need one, okay, Pluto just moved into Aquarius. What even is your life if you don't have a birth chart reading handy that you can look at? Please hit me up on my website. Please like, subscribe, and share. These videos are helpful, and the more people that can get access to them, the better it will be for the whole entire world. Check out my website for all of the services that I offer. I do offer a number of services. If you are interested in tarot reading, I also do that. I have got some market stall dates coming up where I'll be doing readings in reality. If you would like to come and meet up with me, those dates are also on my website. So I also will be finishing off my small astrology series. I've got, who have I got left? I've got Aquarius and Pisces left to go. I will be finishing those up in time for my children's book to be released on the 1st of March, which is a really nice way to start teaching children about astrology and about their birth charts, which is the way of the future, because this ancient wisdom needs to be taught to all of us. So let's start with the children. You can pre-order that also on my website. Thank you for your support and thank you for watching. Make sure you are following me across all of my social media platforms, because sometimes I am releasing information on one and not the other. And stay tuned to these YouTubes, because I am looking to start a few lives on here where you can bring your astrology questions to me. So as always, don't be afraid to face your shadow and walk into the darkness and not know who's going to come out the other side. Put your trust in the universe. Healing these wounds and listening to your inner child and your authentic self is only going to bring you closer to your joy and your purpose. This is a very heavy year of transformation. Those of us that are walking this earth have chosen to be here in this transition, and we need to be helping each other. So make sure you've liked, you've subscribed, and you're following along. Get a birth chart reading. And as always, stay weird.